in general, and my life in particular, is greatly diminished by the loss of this extraordinary person. I'm so proud of his nephews and the great music they played, and I've often thought about how much of Dave's music I've listened to over the years. I have heard Dave play, perform, sing, minister more than any other person on the planet. And I have enjoyed his music more than any other person on the planet. And I got to thinking about what made Dave's music so special. And there were a lot of times, particularly since he's been traveling and working so hard to get back to his girls, that he would be gone for 3 or 6 months at a time. And so when he came home, he would have several gigs lined up. And a lot of times we'd meet and eat together. I'd help him set up. And then a lot of times I would be the only person there at the beginning of the gig. So it was like a solo kind of show, which was extraordinary. But I got to thinking, what is it about Dave's music? And, he had an amazing voice, just such a great voice that I love Dave's voice. And as his nephews were saying, he was an extraordinary musician. He could play anything, and he helped me. We recorded a few songs together. He helped me with a song that related to a series of novels I've written, and the first in the series is called Power in the Blood. And so I said, Dave, I'd like to record Power in the Blood for this series, and I don't like the song Power in the Blood, that old hymn, at all. So I said, what if I rewrite the lyrics and you do the music? And he wrote the most extraordinary music, and he played every instrument on the song and sang, and it was incredible. So what it is about Dave is not just his voice and not just his music, but I truly believe, even when he's doing cover songs and he's doing other artists' music, it's because Dave's heart and soul came through when he performed, when he sang. And being able to receive from him like that did more for me than anything I can tell you. Dave very often, took me into the mystic. Hark now hear the sailor's cry. Smell the sea and feel the sky. Let your soul and spirit fly into the mystic. He reminded me of how fragile we are. On and on the rain will fall like tears from a star. On and on the rain will say how fragile we are. And over again, he convinced me that there really is somewhere beyond the rainbow, where bluebirds fly and dreams come true, where troubles melt like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. In the recent years, he started playing a song by Jason Mraz called I'm Yours. Look into your heart and you'll find love, 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 love. That's what I think of when I think of Dave, is love. He sang this song, and it was always interesting. I noticed, as he did a lot of covers as he was playing his gigs, and I'd never really heard him change lyrics before. But in this song, he changed the lyric, and at one of the lines it says, and it's our God-forsaken right to be loved, 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 loved. But every time Dave sang it, he said it's our God-given right to be loved, because to Dave, no one is ever God-forsaken. It would take days for me to tell you about this amazing, extraordinary friend of mine who became a great, close best friend and then ultimately became a brother. But I have minutes, so I'm going to be very brief. But I've had so many dear friends, like his dear friend Katie, who I got to sit with today, call and check on me. Sue's and different ones, family, Joy and Ev and the girls. And everybody says, how are you doing? Are you okay? We know how close you were. We know what a loss this is. And the thing that I am overwhelmed with, besides grief and the enormous hole that is left by Dave's absence, is gratitude. I am grateful for every single second we spent together. My life is so much better. I am a better person because of Dave Lloyd. And I have had person after person after person, no exaggeration, thank me for introducing them to Dave Lloyd. Isn't that incredible? I wonder how many, you think anyone has ever thanked someone for introducing us to them? I want to be that kind of person. I want to be the kind of person like Dave was, that someone would say, thank you for sharing your friend with me. Thank you for introducing me to him. Dave and I were working on a book together when he died, The 12 Steps, John Jordan's Guide to the 12 Steps. And when I mentioned the idea to him, I could see he was just inspired immediately. And he became, when I asked him about it, I said, I'm finishing up a novel right now, so it'll be a few weeks before I can start working on this. He said, well, I can start now. And so he began emailing me just the most profound, wise information, experiences, quotations about the 12 steps. And it's extraordinary to have, and I'm so grateful that I have that part of him, and hopefully we'll soon finish that book and share it with you. I immortalized Dave in one of my novels called Thunder Beach. He's actually in the book. And a few years later, I dedicated my book, The Meaning of Life in Movies, to Dave. And the irony, of course, is Dave wasn't really into movies. It's part of what makes Jurassic Park in the lobby so funny, and part of why. But when we were talking about it, I was like, Dave, I wanted to dedicate this to you, and I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to wait until there was an appropriate book or that it was the perfect one for you. I said, I just wanted to go ahead and dedicate it to you. And so he found that very funny. To Dave, according to Dave, there was only one movie worth watching, and I think only one that he claims to have watched, and that's Idiocracy, which I've still not watched, but plan to watch very soon with Dave. Dave was always losing things. He always was losing his phone, his keys, his wallet. I drove from Weewahitchka, picked Dave up, drove him all the way out to the new airport to catch a flight, only to realize that he'd forgotten his wallet, and he wasn't going anywhere. Often when we would meet for dinner, Dave would forget his wallet. So much so that my wife nicknamed him No Dinero Dave for a long time. But one time Dave called and he said, man, I lost my iPad, brand new iPad, and he loved it. He read on it. He used it for music. He said, and I said, well, I'm not an actual detective, but I write about a detective, and I play one on TV. So I said, we can figure this out. We got to trace your steps. And we talked about it, and we figured, and it just was gone. It was absolutely missing. About 3 months later, he said, I found my iPad. I said, really? Wow. Where was it? He said, it was in my gym bag. It had been 3 months since I'd been to the gym again. Jesus said, whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life will find it. Dave was often helping people find life. And even in the things he lost, he was simultaneously finding, always finding. As I mentioned, when his girls moved away, we talked about, how could he get over there? And originally he was going to try to be an English language counselor over there. And we did fundraisers, and we talked about different things we could do. And Dave was very creative, and as has been mentioned, he had such a great sense of humor. Powder dry, but such a great sense of humor, and so creative. And so one of the schemes he came up with is he was going to make musical shakes and sell them to raise money, and he was going to make them of historical figures. And I was like, Dave, this is a great idea. And he actually worked with a company in China, and they made the prototypes, and it was really cool. And then the name of the company, he was going to call it Shake Your Buddha. And I just thought that was ingenious. Now, when I asked him, I said, now, Dave, how are you going to distribute these, and how are you going to promote these? And, when it got to the details, it sort of fell apart a little bit, but the idea was incredible. The last words I ever said to Dave, and the last words he ever said to me, were, I love you. And that would have been true if Dave died years ago, or what would have been my preference, years in the future. Dave exemplified unconditional love, radical acceptance. I went back and started reading old texts and messages, emails, Facebook messages, things we've shared over the years, and I was just overwhelmed with love. And I was so grateful for all the love I received from Dave and all that I was able to share with him. And I just wanted to read something that he wrote and ask you, when I do this, to remember all the ways in which he expressed love to you. 5 years ago or so, I got married, and I asked Dave if he would do the wedding, and this is what he wrote and spoke to me and then sent me later after the ceremony. He said, "Michael, I've known you for many years and can say without hesitation that you exemplify love as much as anyone I've ever known. Practical jokes at my expense notwithstanding. Dawn," he said to my wife, "I've only known you 1 year, but in that time I've seen a depth of character that I admire more and more. Your kind heart and love of life has brought much joy and laughter to my best friend and subsequently to mine." I want to share just one of those practical jokes at Dave's expense with you. When we had our bachelorette parties, we decided to do it together. We didn't want to do our own thing, so my future wife and I gathered our friends, and we went all over the place. Went out on the beach to Miss Newby's, and we were just everywhere. And where I wanted to end the evening was my favorite place in town before it closed, which was the Fiesta. And I had been asking Dave, would you please go with me? You're going to like it. You're going to love it. As the nicest people in the world. For those of you who don't know, probably most of you do, but Fiesta was the gay bar downtown Panama City. And I said, Dave, there's as many heterosexual people as homosexual, not that it, matters what the mix is, but I said, it's a wonderful place, and you're going to love it. I don't know. I'm not sure, And, well, that night, he said, okay, well, since that's part of our itinerary, I will go with you. And so we're sitting there as a group, and we're having a good time, and Dave seems to be relaxing enough that he can enjoy himself. But at a certain point, he leaned over and he said, "Is it okay for me to go to the bathroom?" And I just busted out laughing. I was like, "What? Why would you think it wouldn't be okay for you to go to the bathroom?" I said, "Of course it is, man. Of course it is." So he said, "Okay." So Dave gets up, and Dave didn't walk as much as sort of amble. He was very, very. Well, that gave me time to get up and run and get to the bathroom before he got there without him seeing. And I got in the stall, and I hid next to him. And so when he was standing there at the urinal, I reached under and grabbed his leg. And in a kind, loving, gentle way that only Dave could, he slid his leg over, and he said, "No, thank you." Finally, I want to say to you today that what made this man so extraordinary, so compassionate, so loving, was that he was, in the truest sense of the word, a wounded healer. This tradition that goes back to Jesus and Thomas, saying, "Look at my wounds, touch if you need to. Let me minister to you. Let me help you out of my own need, out of my own wounds, out of my own pain." Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters us." Dave was wounded, and through that, the most beautiful light entered him, and it was continually going out of him in the sweetest, wisest ways. Henry Nouwen said, "The great illusion of leadership is to think that we can be led out of the desert by someone who has never been there." Brennan Manning, one of Dave's favorite authors, said, "In a futile attempt to erase our past, we deprive the community of our healing gift. If we conceal our wounds out of fear and shame, our inner darkness can neither be illuminated nor become a light for others." 35 years ago, Dave and I became friends. About a decade ago, we became great, close friends. 7 or 8 years ago, I think we became what I would call brothers. And as long as I knew him, Dave simultaneously saying both the broken and the holy hallelujah. There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the broken hallelujah. I did my best. It wasn't much. I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch. I've told the truth. I didn't come to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah. Thank you.
Would I go? No worries for me. I'll be singing as I leave this old earth soon behind for heaven's glorious light. And where I go, no pain, no tears, only joy and endless years. Time is paid no mind in heaven's glorious light. And I will hold the hand of God, look on Jesus' radiant face. I will thank Him for the cross and His amazing grace. I will rest in peace divine. I am His and He is mine. Heaven's glorious light. If I go, you'll miss me here, but I go without a fear, where time is paid no mind in heaven's glorious light. I will hold on Jesus' radiant face. I will thank Him for the cross and His amazing grace. I will rest in peace divine. I'm His and He is mine. Heaven's glorious light. Hallelujah, Christ my King. Hallelujah, Christ my Lord. Hallelujah, Christ my life. Oh, I'm His and He is mine. Heaven's glorious light. I am His and He is mine. Heaven's glorious light. Thank you. Dave is he's my other brother, Dave. God gave me a biological brother, David, and then He gave me David, Lloyd. At a young age, my earliest memories really in Panama City, and especially with music, involved Dave. And being at the Lloyd house a block from here on Pretty Bayou Drive, and spending a lot of nights there, and woodshedding our playing in the living room, driving the neighbors crazy, I'm sure, and his mom and dad graciously allowing that. Greg here and I and Dave and a handful of others later started our first band. I think Dave was probably the ringleader. He was the most organized of us. He knew more chords than we did, and he had more gear than we did. And so you had no drum set then. You had pencils and pots. But shortly thereafter, we were plugging all our vocal mics into a Sun guitar amp, and your brother's Moss Wright. I still want that guitar. It's a great guitar. And then Dave had this fret bass that was that I just found out tonight still is in the possession of Jordan. You have it? And he was the only one of us that could play that, so I don't know if that was why he started playing or because Chip played a little bit, I believe. But he was the guy that rallied us together at a young age and actually taught us the songs we learned. We started our first band, 6th grade, Starlight Band, had a real brief career. We rewrote our first songs together. One became a real big hit for Led Zeppelin. It was Stairway to Heaven. And it was, we wrote our Christian version of it. And that was one of the first songs we played. But Dave, he was an encourager of people's gifts. And I from way back, he just, whenever there was a bond, with people, he would latch to you in a great way. And you had a great mutual exchange. So I love Dave for that. I always loved that he was one of the people God used to get me on my road early on. Later in life, as we connected throughout our lives, I would camp out at he and Ev's house, pre-kids, with the dog, and they'd let me load up my gear in Nashville and bring it down here, and I'd park at their place and do music, and Dave and I would get to stay up late and play, and taught me to play chess in that time, I think. He's taught me a lot in my life, and you don't think of one of your peers as a friend being one of those that's going to be a real teacher the way that he was. But I love that about David Lloyd, that he was always imparting, and that I loved how you were talking about his way of seeing the world and his faith. It was very different, right? And it's hard to imagine, Randall and I were talking, that this will be a world now without him, because his sense of humor, his presence in our life has just always been a constant. And so I'm honored as a man who I know the blessing it is to have friends, and that it's a gift from the Lord. And I'm honored to be here to say of this great man that he is a man that honored God with his life, and that he was always aiming for the prize. He never gave up that passion for Jesus. He never gave up the passion for Jesus and his people. As messy as we can all be, and as messed up as the church can be, he never stopped trying to figure out how can he do his part to equip God's people. And I always appreciate that about him. One of the lessons that later in life, we were in Hungary, and we were having a conversation up on I was talking with Hal and Randall, some bug-infested field in Hungary, and we were we're talking about worship. And at that point, worship was not quite the big movement that it is, or known as a genre of music. It was, it was more related to something you did in your life. And we called leading worship singing praise songs or whatever. Then it was not that we were leading worship. But one of the things that Dave helped me understand early on is it wasn't about who was leading it. We tend to look at people and judge them by that, and to size even worship leaders and pastors and people who are supposed to be our leaders. We're always judging. We're always critiquing. And I remember I was doing that, I think is what it was. And Dave's unique way of approaching things was just be direct. So I love that about him. He could be very direct. And I remember him challenging me one time. I don't even remember what I said or who it was, but it had to do with the talent of somebody or measuring some element of this. And he was real quick to pull it back and say, you know what, it's about the heart, and that's what God sees, not the talent, not who's leading, not how slick it is. And I love that. I don't think of Dave as slick. I think of Dave as very unique in the way he approaches his friendships, his music. He was always one of the most musical people still that I have known. And the last thing I want to part with you, we all laugh when we think about Dave, but one of the best bits of wisdom that I'm going to forever be the wiser and better for knowing, that I bet you don't know, is that wasabi Kit Kat bars taste more like Kit Kat bars than they do wasabi, right? That was his last parting wisdom on Facebook for a lot of us. And that explains Dave. He just had a dry way of looking at the planet and the world and found humor and everything. But Dave is a man I will miss. We've walked miles and miles around this neighborhood. We've been around the world and places together in a ministry. And he's never given up on the Lord. The Lord never gave up on Dave. So it's a blessing. Ev, the girls, love you dearly. Joy, Becky, And your whole family has been a blessing to my family. And so we will greatly miss him, but honor him in our hearts and you in our prayers. Thank you. If we could just pray with me. Father, in Jesus' name, we lift up this celebratory time, Lord. You comfort those who mourn and grieve. You promise that. And we trust in that, Lord. But we today celebrate the life of David Lloyd. We thank you for his friendship, this far-reaching, Lord, around the world. We thank you for the way that he loves his family and his community. And today, Lord, we bless his family. We speak life over them. And, Father, may the heritage of faith continue on in all of his girls and his family. And we honor you in Jesus' name. Amen. Sorry, Evan, the girls are coming.
I'm Ev. I think most of you know me. I shared half my life with Dave, so I wanted to come up here and say something too. We divorced 6 years ago, and but we still care deeply for each other. Well, as we heard the stories, Dave had big ideas and big vision, and it was a big adventure. We moved 16 times in 22 years. We had 6 international moves. We visited and sang in 16 countries, most of them with Randy. It was a very exciting life, sometimes too exciting for me to keep up with him. And he lost phones in Wallace everywhere we went. But I left my notes, so I'm just speaking from my heart. But yeah, what attracted me to Dave in the first place was he was so full of grace. When I first met him in Holland, he was on a music missions trip, and he was so relaxed and laid back and full of grace, and I was the opposite. And also he always pursued what Tom was sharing too. He always pursued people that were interesting to him, or he felt like he could have a connection with musically or biblically or counseling or anything. He would just go up to them, meet them, set an appointment, and I would be like, wow. And so everywhere he went, he built relationships, and he was always thinking of bumper stickers, and he always wanted to invent things. In the early 80s, he wanted to make coffee pads, like the tea bags. He's like, why don't we have coffee bags? Because he was always drinking coffee. And a lot of times I was like, yeah, Dave, yeah, whatever. But then later there were the coffee bags, the coffee pads. And he was like, see, told you. And, so I tried to slow him down at times. It was a wild ride. And even though we divorced, I always told the girls he was such a good man. He had so much love and so much kindness and so much wisdom. But at some point we didn't set a good example for our girls anymore, the way we were modeling our relationship. And I feel like Dave passed at a time where he was doing as good as he ever had. I'm really proud of him, how he was doing and how he was pursuing the girls. And they were all back in touch with him and had great plans. And I was hoping with him to enjoy the girls and their accomplishments in the future. And so we're heartbroken, but we're, like everybody else, so grateful for what he instilled in us and what we learned from him. And I see so much of Dave in the girls. You can still see glimpses of him here and there in the future. Thank you. I'm going to read Marcella's piece. She had written this last week. The girls each got 1 minute on the phone to supposed to say goodbye to Dave. And as in hospital, they held the phone to his ear, but he was already gone, and it was a frustrating experience because the nurse didn't speak English. So she kept interrupting the girls, so finally we hung up. But this is what Marcella wanted to say to her daddy. Yeah, that there, yes. Dear Dad, I love you so much, and I'm going to miss you. Thank you for all the fun things we did, like going to Disney World and Universal Studios for Christmas. And thank you for always taking me to Buffalo Wild Wings before the dentist. And every time I would come and visit you in America, that was one of my favorite places to go with you. I will miss our daddy and daughter dates we always went on. There is so much that you had taught me, like playing Plants versus Zombies. And Marcella played the game this past week, and she was like, I have to finish the game before the funeral. And she did. And thank you for always taking me with you to take Panera bread to the people who lived in those trailer homes. There was so much still I wanted to do with you, like you walking me down the aisle and meeting your grandchildren. Thank you for everything and how you loved me as your first little girl. But you're in a better place now, and you will always be in my heart. Enjoy playing in God's band. Love you forever, Marcella.
Hello, I'm Rosie, his second daughter. Yeah. Where to start? Dave. What a chaotic man. Like everyone is saying, he lost a lot of things. He could not keep track of most of his stuff. And I remember one time he had a lot of stuff in Holland, and he gave me a plaque that said, "Don't clean up my mess. You'll ruin it, or you ruin my atmosphere and confuse me," or something like that. I was like, that's Dave, and now that's me. So keep that in my room. Mom. My dad, he touched a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Whether it was with his sense of humor, his wisdom, his open book attitude, or his intense love for the people around him. The list goes on about wonderful qualities that he had. But I believe that he blessed us, and I think we should cherish the ways that he blessed us, and really keep them in our hearts so that his legacy can live on through the rest of us. And as tragic as this loss is, like a good friend said, he's playing in God's band now, and I hope I can make him proud with my dry sense of humor and my messiness and my music. And Dad, if you're listening, thank you for everything, for the good and the bad. You're one heck of a musician, and I hope I'll make you proud. You taught me so much, and I know you're not done, even if you're no longer around. And I want to thank everyone for their sweet messages and hugs and just wonderful, wonderful stories about my dad. And it really, really helped me a lot, so thank you guys.
Hi, I'm Emma. Never thought I'd be standing here today this soon. Growing up, our dad was our hero, and we loved seeing how many people he helped and how many people loved him. And we loved watching him play music at his gigs. And we could always come to him about anything. He was our personal counselor, and he never judged us or looked at us differently for anything, and he always had the best advice. We were so grateful for all the trips he took to Holland when we lived there. We still do. We made so many great memories, and he really did his best to come visit as long as possible and as many times as possible. And we'd FaceTime all the time, and we'd do it till we lost track of time. And we were looking forward to making so many more memories, but we can't. And he actually invited me to come to Panama City, and I would have been there next week with him after his assignment. And instead, we're here. In his last letter, he wrote me, he said, "Emma, I'll always be your dad, and I'll always love you completely, and nothing will ever change that. And I'm always going to hold on to that. And I'll always be your daughter, Dad, and I'll always love you completely. And I miss you more than I can say. And thank you, everyone, for being here."
I'm nervous. I'm Susanna. I'm the youngest. I wrote this down because I knew I'd choke otherwise, but I decided to wing the ending for some reason, so that was a mistake. But here goes. These last few weeks have turned my world upside down and right side up in practically any and every direction one could possibly turn in. It's brought heartache and more tears than any of us can count, and it's broken us all in ways we didn't know we were able to break in. It's made the next couple of weeks, months, years, it's made this life seem almost unimaginable to live. How are we supposed to go on without this amazing soul who brought so much light and happiness into our lives? So many of you lost a friend, a brother, a son, a father. How do you go on without a father? Of course, he lives on in our memories and in our hearts and whatnot. But ever since we got the news, ever since we got the call, I haven't been able to think about him past what he is now. I haven't been able to call back all of the memories I was always so fond of. I haven't been able to do anything past today. One day at a time is something I've been living by. Some of you may know that I was planning on moving here with Dad next year. I was going to study performing arts at Gulf Coast. We were going to do gigs together and get a dog. We were going to get a grill and go to the new Spider-Man movie. I'm a Marvel fan, can't you tell? We had so many plans, whether big or small, which makes this experience all the more excruciating. Because I didn't just lose a father, I felt I'd lost my future as well. But I realized quickly that a future can be rebuilt, a father cannot. And I felt so alone because any time I would be feeling this way otherwise, I would call Dad and he'd crack a stupid joke or two, give me some life advice, and send me on my way. And I still have this nagging feeling to just send him a text or to call, a Snapchat, anything, but I can't. And it's caused this mixed feeling of grief and confusion. I feel like I'm stuck between what's real and what feels real and what doesn't. There's an artist Dad and I like to listen to, and while we preferred his happier songs, there was one sad song that always stood out. And one of the lines is, "And in this great sorrow, we learn what joy means." Half of me, before today, was thinking that's dumb, and how could we possibly learn what joy means in the middle of a funeral? But I get it now. We're here today to mourn, yes, but also to celebrate Dad's life and to carry on his legacy. I'm proud to get to call myself his daughter, and I'm thankful for the gifts he's given. And in a letter I wrote him, I promised him I would never give up on my dreams, and that's something he taught me. And I won't. I swear it. That's all.